Most people who fail financially don't lack faith, they lack execution. According to the Federal Reserve, 37% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency in 2024. God was never meant to replace thinking, discipline, or responsibility. He was never your business plan. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through exactly what I'd do if every dollar disappeared tomorrow. No savings, no safety net, just stewardship principles and strategic action. This isn't theory, this is the path. I'm Joe, and I study what actually builds lasting wealth versus what just sounds good in motivational posts. I've seen people with theology degrees and zero business sense stay broke. And I've watched people with no formal education build generational wealth through faithful stewardship. The difference isn't education or opportunity, it's the willingness to act on what you've been given. Let's break down the framework. S. Speed. Why momentum beats perfection. Speed without wisdom is recklessness, but wisdom without speed is just expensive daydreaming. Most people treat business ideas like precious artifacts. They polish them, they protect them, they wait for conditions to be perfect before they move. Meanwhile, the market shifts, competitors act, and the window closes. Here's what research from the Kauffman Foundation shows. Businesses that reach their first customer within 30 days of formation are 2.5 times more likely to survive past year 3 than those that take 6 months or longer. Why? Because early customer contact forces you to confront reality. You discover what people actually want versus what you think they need. Let me give you a scenario. You're broke in January 2026. You notice your neighborhood has terrible cell phone reception. You could spend 3 months researching tower placement and FCC regulations, or you could spend 3 hours creating a simple survey on Google Forms asking neighbors if they'd pay $50 per month for a Wi-Fi mesh network solution you manage. One gets you information this week, the other gets you nothing but rabbit holes. Or imagine this, you're good at organization. You could build a website, create a brand, design business cards, and launch in 6 months. Or you could text 5 people in your contact list today. Hey, I'm helping people declutter and organize their homes. $200 for a half-day session. Know anyone who needs this? One approach waits for readiness. The other tests market demand immediately. This connects directly to biblical stewardship. In Luke 19, Jesus tells a parable of the minas. 10 servants each receive 1 mina. The ones who acted immediately, even imperfectly, were rewarded. The one who buried his mina out of fear was rebuked. Notice God didn't rebuke him for losing money. He rebuked him for not putting it to work. The principle? Faithful action with what you have today beats perfect planning for tomorrow. Here's your takeaway. If you're starting from zero, your advantage isn't perfection, it's velocity. Move fast enough to learn what works before your competitors even finish planning.
Team. Trend and industry selection. Follow demographics, not dreams. You can work 80 hours a week in the wrong industry and still fail. Or you can work 40 hours in the right industry and build wealth. Most people choose industries based on passion, personal interest, or what looks exciting. That's admirable, but strategically weak. If I'm starting from nothing in 2026, I'm not asking, what do I love? I'm asking, where is inevitable demand heading, and how can I position myself in that path? Here's the reality. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, home health aide jobs are projected to grow 22% from 2023 to 2033. That's way above average. Why? Because 11,000 Americans turn 65 every single day, and that's been happening since 2011. This isn't speculation. This is demographic math. Compare that to retail, which is projected to decline by 2% over the same period. Same amount of effort, vastly different odds of success. Let me give you another angle. According to Small Business Administration data, construction-related businesses have a 51% 5-year survival rate. Food services, 36%.
You can be equally talented in both fields, but your survival odds differ by 15 percentage points based purely on industry selection. So, where would I look if I'm starting from zero? Aging-related services, not just healthcare, but technology tutoring for seniors, home modification for aging in place, estate cleanout services, transportation to medical appointments. The demand is guaranteed. It's just math. Essential home services with supply shortages. According to associated builders and contractors, the construction industry needs to attract 500,000 additional workers in 2026 alone just to meet demand. That means if you can learn basic carpentry, plumbing basics, or electrical work, you're entering a market with more demand than supply. Bridge services between old and new. Local businesses know they need digital presence, but 73% of small business owners report feeling overwhelmed by technology, according to Guidant Financial in 2024. You don't need to be a tech expert. You need to be the translator who helps them get on Google Maps, manage their online reviews, and post consistently on social media. Here's the biblical principle. Ecclesiastes 11:4 says, "Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap." You can wait for perfect conditions forever, or you can plant where the soil is already good. I'd rather farm fertile ground than try to grow crops in concrete. Your takeaway? Don't follow your passion into a dying industry. Follow demographic trends and supply shortages into sustainable markets. E. Evaluate cash flow. Boring beats brilliant. Cash flow is not glamorous. It's also not optional. If you're starting with $0, you cannot afford to build a business that pays you in 18 months. You need revenue this month, ideally this week. Here's what the data shows. According to CB Insights, 38% of startups fail because they run out of cash. Not because the idea was bad, not because they weren't smart enough, because they ran out of time before they ran out of runway. Most people are attracted to businesses that sound impressive at parties. I'm building an app. I'm launching a brand. I'm creating content. All of those can work eventually, but eventually doesn't pay rent when you're broke. Let me paint two paths for you. Path A, you decide to build a personal training app. You spend 4 months learning to code or hiring a developer. You spend $3,000 you don't have on design and hosting. You launch to 12 users. 6 months in, you're at negative cash flow. Path B, you offer in-person personal training sessions. You post in 3 Facebook community groups, first session free, then $40 per session. I come to you. You get 5 inquiries the first day. 3 become paying clients by end of week. 4 weeks in, you're at $480 per week revenue. Same expertise, completely different cash position. Now, Path A might scale bigger eventually, but Path B keeps you alive while you learn the business. That's wisdom. That's stewardship. Here's the biblical connection. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, "Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." That's harsh language. Why? Because provision is a form of worship. You can't steward resources you don't have. You need cash flow to create stewardship opportunities. If I'm starting from zero, I'm looking at home services you can start today. Gutter cleaning, window washing, garage organization, moving help, furniture assembly. These require minimal tools, no credentials, and people pay same day. Digital services for local businesses, Google Business Profile Optimization, review management, social media posting. Most small business owners will pay $300 to $500 per month for someone to handle this consistently. Urgent problem solving. When someone needs something fixed today, a clogged drain, a broken fence, a computer that won't boot, they pay premium. That's where cash lives. Notice the pattern. These aren't businesses you tell people about at networking events, but they're businesses that keep you solvent while you build something bigger. Your takeaway, if you're broke, your first business should generate cash within 7 days. Build your dream business with the profits from your cash flow business. W. Wealth transfer opportunities. Position yourself in the flow. Wealth isn't just created, it's transferred. Right now, we're living through the largest wealth transfer in human history, and most people are completely ignoring it because it's not sexy or viral. Here's the data. According to Cerulli Associates, $84 trillion in wealth will transfer over the next 2 decades, with $72 trillion of that coming from estate transfers. But here's what most people miss. That's not just inheritance for heirs. That's entire businesses, properties, and assets that need management, transition, and sale. Let me give you a different angle on this. According to S.T.E.W.A.R.D, approximately 70% of small businesses don't have a formal succession plan. These are profitable businesses with established customer bases, but the owners are exhausted and don't know how to exit. If I'm starting from zero, I'm not competing with other startups. I'm positioning myself to take over what's already working. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Scenario 1. You notice a local bookkeeping service that's been around for 30 years. The owner is 68. You approach him. I see you've built something remarkable here. Have you thought about what happens when you retire? I'd love to learn from you and potentially take over operations when you're ready. You're not buying the business with money you don't have. You're offering a succession plan. Scenario 2. You identify 3 local rental properties whose owners are in their 70s. You offer property management services. I'll handle tenant screening, rent collection, maintenance coordination for 10% of monthly rent. You keep the income without the headaches. You're now in the wealth transfer business, managing assets for people who want passive income. Scenario 3. You find a small manufacturing business that does $800,000 in annual revenue, but the owner wants to retire. Instead of buying it outright, which you can't afford, you propose, I'll run operations for 1 year at a salary. After that, we structure seller financing, where I buy the business over 7 years using the cash flow. You're using other people's assets to build your own wealth. Here's where this gets biblical. Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous." This isn't about taking advantage. It's about faithful stewardship when poor stewards are letting assets decay. Most aging business owners don't want to close their business. They just don't have anyone to hand it to. You become that person. You become the bridge between their legacy and the next generation. Your takeaway, stop trying to create wealth from nothing. Position yourself in the path of wealth that's already in motion. Become the faithful steward who receives what others can no longer manage.
A. Affluent clients. Serve people who value what you offer. Poor clients create poor businesses. Not because they're bad people, but because they can't afford to pay you properly. If you're starting from zero, you cannot afford to serve people who can't afford you. This sounds harsh, but it's mathematical reality. Let me show you what I mean. According to a 2024 study by FreshBooks, the average small service business that targets budget-conscious consumers operates at 8 to 12% profit margins. Meanwhile, premium service businesses targeting affluent clients operate at 25 to 35% margins. Same industry, same effort, triple the profit. Why? Because affluent clients don't buy on price, they buy on value, convenience, and trust. Let me give you real examples. Lawn care. You could charge $35 for a basic mow and go in lower income neighborhoods where you compete with teenagers doing it for $20. Or you could charge $150 for a full property maintenance visit in affluent neighborhoods where homeowners value their Saturday mornings more than $150. Tutoring. You could charge $25 per hour helping struggling students whose parents cancel appointments frequently, or you could charge $85 per hour helping high-achieving students whose parents view education as their top investment and never miss a session. House cleaning. You could charge $80 for a basic clean in apartment complexes, or you could charge $250 for a deep clean in suburban homes where dual income professionals will pay premium for reliable, trustworthy service. Same skills, different clients, completely different business outcomes. Here's the key. Affluent clients are actually easier to work with. They respect your time, pay promptly, value expertise, and generate referrals to other affluent clients.
Budget clients often require more hand-holding, late-night responses, and payment follow-up. Now, I can already hear the objection. But Joe, isn't that unbiblical? Shouldn't we serve everyone? Let me answer that clearly. Jesus served everyone, but he also said in Luke 10:7, the worker deserves his wages. Paul worked as a tent maker specifically to fund his ministry without being a burden. Faithful stewardship means charging what your service is worth so you can sustain provision for your household and eventually serve from overflow. If I'm starting from zero in 2026, I'm targeting professionals aged 35 to 55. They have disposable income, value their time, and will pay for quality. Small business owners, they understand the value of expertise because they sell expertise themselves. Retirees with fixed incomes but savings, they'll pay for services that maintain their independence and quality of life. Here's how you find them. Look for zip codes with median household incomes above $75,000. Post in neighborhood Facebook groups for those areas. Offer services that solve problems affluent people actually have, not problems you think they should have. Your takeaway. If you're broke, serve people who can afford to pay you properly. Build wealth first. Serve broadly later from a position of strength. R. Run systems and tools. Start manual, scale strategically. Tools don't build businesses. Disciplined humans using tools build businesses. If I'm starting from $0, I'm not spending money on software, subscriptions, or systems in month one. I'm using free tools and manual processes until cash flow justifies investments. Here's the mistake I see constantly. People buy the infrastructure of a successful business before they have a successful business. They buy email marketing software with 0 subscribers. They buy project management tools with 0 projects. They buy scheduling software with 0 appointments. That's not stewardship, that's waste. Let me show you the progression. Month 1 to 2, $0 to $2,000 per month revenue, scheduling through text messages and phone calls, payments through Cash, Venmo, or Zelle, invoicing through Google Docs template, customer tracking through Google Sheets. Total cost, $0. Month 3 to 4, $2,000 to $5,000 per month revenue, scheduling through Calendly free for $12, saves you 3 hours per week, payments through Square plus QuickBooks Self-Employed, $15 per month, customer relationship management through HubSpot free tier. Total cost, $27 per month. See the pattern? You invest in tools only when they save time worth more than they cost. Now let's talk about AI specifically, because 2026 is the year you need to understand this. AI is a tool, not a strategy. It's a force multiplier, not a foundation. Here's how I'd use it from zero. Email responses. I'd write one good template for common inquiries, then I'd use free ChatGPT to customize it for each person. That's 10 minutes of work instead of 60. Appointment reminders. I'd use Zapier's free tier to automatically text clients 24 hours before appointments. That's 0 minutes versus 30 minutes of manual texting. Social media content. If I'm running a local service business, I take photos of completed work, upload to ChatGPT, and ask, write 3 Facebook posts about this project highlighting the transformation. That's 5 minutes versus 30. But here's what I would not do. I would not rely on AI for client communication, problem solving, or relationship management. Those require human judgment, empathy, and presence. Here's the biblical principle. Proverbs 21:5 says the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. Systems serve diligence, they don't replace it. The lazy person automates everything hoping to avoid work. The diligent person automates repetitive tasks to focus energy on high-value work. If I'm building from zero, I'm using AI to eliminate administrative work so I can spend more time serving customers excellently. Your takeaway. Start with free tools and manual processes. Invest in systems only when they save time worth more than they cost. Use AI to amplify human work, not replace it. D. Distinguish human touch. Your competitive advantage in an automated world. The more automated the world becomes, the more valuable human presence becomes. Everyone is racing toward automation, AI, and efficiency, and there's wisdom in that. But there's also opportunity in the opposite direction, being the person who shows up when everyone else sends a bot. Here's what McKinsey research shows. 71% of consumers expect personalized interactions from companies, and 76% get frustrated when this doesn't happen. But here's the problem. Most businesses are moving toward less personalization, not more, because automation is cheaper. That's your opportunity. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Scenario 1. You run a handyman business. After completing a job, most competitors send an automated email. Thanks for your business. You take 3 minutes to handwrite a note. Mr. Johnson, it was a pleasure fixing your deck today. I noticed your gutters might need attention before winter. No charge to take a look next time I'm in the neighborhood. Signed, Joe. Cost, 50 cents for a card and stamp. Result, Mr. Johnson refers you to 3 neighbors over the next month. Scenario 2. You offer virtual assistant services. When a client has an urgent deadline, most VAs stick to business hours. You text them at 8 p.m. Saw your message. I can knock this out tonight if you need it ready for morning. No rush charge. Just want to make sure you're covered. Cost, 2 hours of your evening. Result, that client never considers working with anyone else. Scenario 3. You run a tutoring business. When a student gets accepted to their dream college, you don't just send congratulations. You mail them a handwritten card with a $10 Starbucks gift card and a note. I knew you could do it. Proud of the work you put in. Signed, Joe. Cost, $11. Result, their parents tell every parent they know about you. See the pattern? These aren't grand gestures. They're small, human touches that everyone else is too busy or too automated to do. Here's what's fascinating. According to a Harvard Business School study, customers who had the best experiences spent 140% more than those who had the poorest experiences. You don't need better services, you need better presence. This is deeply biblical. In John 1:14, it says, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us." God didn't send a manual. He didn't send a video course. He showed up in person. That's incarnational ministry. That's the model. If I'm starting from zero, here's where I lean in on human touch. Initial consultations. Never do these over email if you can help it. Phone call at minimum, in person if possible. People buy from people they trust, and trust is built face-to-face. Problem resolution. When something goes wrong, don't hide behind email. Pick up the phone. Better yet, show up. When you solve problems personally, you build loyalty that lasts for years. Celebration moments. When clients hit milestones, acknowledge them personally. Handwritten notes, small gifts, personal phone calls. These cost almost nothing and create lifetime advocates. Regular check-ins. Once a quarter, reach out to past clients just to check in. No sales pitch, just, hey, wanted to see how things are going. Anything I can help with? Most will say no, but they'll remember you cared enough to ask. Your takeaway. Automate the back end. Scheduling, invoicing, reminders, but personalize the front end. Consultations, problem solving, follow-ups. The human touch is your competitive advantage in a digital world. Here's the question that matters. What are you actually building? If you're just trying to make money, you'll quit when it gets hard. If you're just trying to escape a job, you'll build another job. But if you're stewarding resources for something bigger than yourself, you'll build something that outlasts you. God is not your business plan. He's not a strategy for success. He's not a formula for wealth. But faithful stewardship of what he's given you, that he honors, that he multiplies, that he uses for purposes beyond what you can see. If I lost everything tomorrow and had to start with $0, I wouldn't be asking, how can I get rich? I'd be asking, what can I steward faithfully right now with what I have today? And here's what I'd do. I'd move fast, not recklessly, but decisively. I'd launch something within 48 hours, even if it's imperfect. I'd pick an industry based on demographics and demand, not dreams and passion. I'd start a cash flow business that pays me this week, not next year. I'd position myself in wealth transfer opportunities, taking over what others can no longer manage. I'd serve affluent clients who value what I offer and can pay properly. I'd use free tools and manual processes until cash flow justifies investment. And I'd show up personally with handwritten notes, phone calls, and face-to-face service because everyone else is hiding behind automation. This isn't about building a unicorn startup. It's about building sustainable provision through faithful stewardship. Think about this. What if your business wasn't about you at all? What if it was about creating jobs for people who need them? What if it was about serving your community well? What if it was about funding kingdom work? What if it was about showing your children what faithfulness looks like in action? That changes everything. Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children." That's not just financial inheritance, that's legacy. That's stewardship modeled over decades. That's wealth that serves generations. You don't need capital to start. You don't need connections. You don't need a perfect plan. You need clarity about where to act, courage to move quickly, and faithfulness to steward what's in your hand today. So here's my question for you. If you lost everything tomorrow, would you know what to do? Would you have the clarity to act? Would you have the courage to start? God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. And if He's called you to build, provide, and steward, then the only question left is, will you move? Let's recap the S.T.E.W.A.R. framework. S for speed. Launch within 30 days. Test ideas immediately. Velocity beats perfection when you're building from zero. T for trend and industry selection. Follow demographics, not dreams. Choose industries with favorable survival rates and inevitable demand. E for evaluate cash flow. Start with boring businesses that pay within 7 days. Fund your dream with profits from cash flow. W for wealth transfer opportunities. Position yourself to take over what others can't manage. 70% of small businesses have no succession plan. Become the solution. A for affluent clients. Serve people who value and can afford your work. Premium clients create sustainable businesses. R for run systems and tools. Start manual, scale strategically. Invest in tools only when they save time worth more than they cost. D for distinguish human touch. Automate the back end, personalize the front end. Human presence is your competitive advantage. That's the framework. That's the path. That's what I do with $0 in 2026. If this resonated with you, there are more frameworks and stewardship principles on this channel. I don't post every day. I don't follow trends. I share what works, quietly, faithfully, consistently. Subscribe if you want more. Share this with someone who's trying to build something real. And most importantly, start today. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need to steward what's already in your hand. God bless your stewardship.